let's talk about something that kind of plays into that a little bit, property tax caps. It's on the ballot this November to write them into the state constitution permanently. Do you think it's a good idea to write them into the state constitution at this point?
No, I don't think it's a good idea, but you also have to understand, as a lawyer, I view the Constitution as a very important document. Constitutions, though, are designed to give you those big, broad pictures, to give the basic, fundamental approach that we as a society have in general. It's not supposed to be micromanagement. And I think in this instance, what we're saying is we don't trust government, so we've got to put in the Constitution this. Now, next we're going to put some other little thing in that says, okay, we can't trust government, so we're going to put this in the Constitution. There are already some restrictions in the Constitution about what we have to do, like have a balanced budget. And that should, in fact, cap our tax, how much we can do tax-wise. But the property tax is particularly poorly timed, and the reality is it only benefits about 28% of our community. Most of the people that are in Allen County don't benefit 1 penny from this tax cap. Now, I understand that many of the wealthy, the big homes, do, and I don't necessarily think we ought to bleed the wealthy for everything. But this cap is one that, it's maybe the best. It takes a percent of wealth rather than a higher percent of earnings. When we do an income tax, that affects someone's earnings. And on the federal, we've got a progressive income tax. While at Indiana, we've got more of a flat income tax. Everybody gets the same percent billing. The property tax it only increases as the value of your property goes up. And the value of your property is often also affected by the value of your education system, the value of the infrastructure around there. And those are things that the property taxes help with. So they actually help with the things that also improve your property value. So I think there's some logical reasons why the property tax shouldn't be capped in that way. Because the reality is the only reason the people who fight for the cap is they don't trust government. I understand that, but then we've got to find a way to hold government accountable for your spending. You don't fix a problem in the way that we're doing right now, which has harmed us. The ability to provide fire services, police services, and education, some of those crucial services, has been severely hamstrung by this cap. And it's already in place now anyway. One of the other things I would say is it's in place now. We're seeing the effect of it. Why don't we give it a little more time to see the effect of it before we amend our Constitution? And so I think it's, I don't think it's a good idea, but the good news is the people are going to have to decide. And in reality, I think it's probably going to pass. And unfortunately, I think a couple of years down the road, we will realize how painful that is to us. And the reality is, there's going to be other revenue sources that will have to be considered. And if lawmakers are truly irresponsible, well, then they'll just create another tax. Now, that's not the goal. That's not the knee-jerk reaction that I would have. I think we will try to live within that budget, and we will find a way to make it work. And I believe there is still more fat in the state budget, where more ought to be cut from state budgets, but I don't have full access to all those programs, and I don't have access to the directors that are overseeing those programs. But I think that's something that we should do. And there's, if you don't mind me looking, there was an organization that used to be used to oversee. You losing me?
Nope, you're fine.
Oh, the Sunset Evaluation Committee. Now, I didn't know what that meant until someone told me what it was, and so I researched it. And it was a special. Their job was to actually evaluate some government business aspects, and then recommend things that maybe were outdated or things that weren't really needed anymore, and to try to keep it lean. Whether you use that organization or some other organization, we ought to be evaluating always, an ongoing process, how we keep government lean. We want the least government that's necessary to provide the vital services that we want government to provide. So we should always be reviewing the various agencies, departments, and seeing, why are we doing this? Is there still a good reason for doing it? Can we do it cheaper? Is there a cheaper way of doing it and combining it with somewhere else? Like in the social services programs. A study a few years back saw that there was some duplication within programs. Well, we need to look at that and see, is there a way we can avoid that duplication? For me, in those social service programs, can we avoid the drag on human time of people not knowing where they're supposed to go? You know, I went through a simulation of poverty that Ken and I was putting on, and it was extremely valuable to let you feel. Amazingly, even though you knew you were going through an exercise, you felt the frustrations. So I can imagine how you would feel if you were really trying to get something that your family needed through this program. I mean, I didn't need it, and I felt frustrated in the game. So, but not knowing where to go is harmful to our system, to not just the human beings who need these services, but to the workers. Workers constantly having to tell people, no, here's not where you go, you have to go over there, and being sometimes yelled at. It would make you a little frustrated. It might even get you hardened. So having a process that's disorganized hurts the whole system. It's like throwing sand in the gearworks. We need to find a way to streamline this, and my simplistic initial vision of that is that we would have a one agency clearinghouse, that you go through this one agency, and that person his job is to know what is available, and then to find out from this person, help them decide what services they really need. Because sometimes people in poverty, they don't know really what they need, and so they go to one place and they go, well, that's what we do here, but that's not what you need, and so then you need to go over here. Well, the goal is that we would have the case managers that would look at a person's situation. Even if the person comes in and says, hey, I need food stamps, they say, okay, well, let's look over your situation, show us, tell me what your family consists of, what's your income, and then identify for them if in fact food stamps is what they need, or do they need rent assistance, do they need to maybe downsize in their housing. So you're not just giving them the government programs that they need, but also some advice perhaps on how else they can bring their family into a better situation. And then that case manager then only sends them on to the programs that would really be beneficial for them. And it would be nice if the system could design a way that we give them appointments, so they don't have to go stand in a long line, and maybe even stand in that line and then get cut off at the end of the day. You know, that happened to me in the KNI simulation, and I know that in that game I expended money, I expended energy to get there, and then to only have the door shut in my face was not just aggravating, but it made you mad.
Well, and if I remember correctly, there was a couple of instances where you got there and you got cut off, and then you didn't have the money to go back again. That's because right. That's what the whole reason you were there. Yeah,
you're right, and that I forgot you were there. You were covering that, and I'm glad you were, because it does need to be talked about.
Sure.
And that was true. One thing we have to realize is people who are living in the poverty area don't have unlimited transportation resources. They're not allowed to just hop on a bus. You got to pay when you get on that bus, and if you want to get home, you have to pay again. And so it's, you know, and even if you're getting some kind of public assistance, you have a limited amount of that. And do we want them wasting it on wasted trips? You know, they've got a limited amount of resources. If they're having to go someplace, pay to come back, and then do it again the next day, we have just taken money out of the family. And so we have to find a way to make that effective for for the people, because, and also it will help the people who work in the FSSA programs. I think most of them are there because they want to help. They want to be in a program, in a job where they can see that they're really helping people. However, when it gets so disorganized, where the people that are coming in are frustrated and angry, we're hurting the quality of those workers, because it's tough to work in an environment where you are not being effective in what you're doing. And so if we streamline the system and make it more organized, I think our workers will be more efficient also.